Now, it is that time of the week again, would you believe? The Monaghan Way in association with Northern Sound and myself here, Sean McCaffrey. It's episode 21. I certainly hope you enjoyed our 20th episode there. Brought you a special one, of course. Patrick Murray, the NFL kicker, joining us the whole way from the opposite side of the Atlantic to talk all things Clonus, GAS and Chernox Park. And, of course, his time as an NFL kicker. And it was rather appropriate, obviously, with the big NFL action that was happening at Croke Park there at the weekend too, that we had a chat with him. So I don't know, Fergal, how you follow up on that. What was your NFL kicking like? Fergal Monaghan joining us here again on this episode. We're going to be looking ahead. We're going to reflect back, but in the middle of it all, NFL kicking, did you ever attempt it?
I did well to kick a round ball, let alone an oval ball, but I was always a big fan of Joe Montana and the 49ers. When I was at Channel 4, used to show the NFL when I was growing up, and Jerry Rice. They were my team then, but yeah, American football, it's in vogue, isn't it? It's all the fashion at the minute, but do enjoy a bit of it, I have to say, the razzmatazz and all that carry on.
Yeah, and obviously, I know when the Super Bowl comes around, that's what really maybe garners all our interest. No different than at the weekend gone by. We had the Ryder Cup, so we're all experts in golf now. So we are. We had the World Athletics the week before, so we were all big into the track events. It's amazing when certain events come around like that I suppose we can be bandwagoners at the best of time, but it captures an interest.
Absolutely, it does. I mean, it's just a bit of a novelty, really, isn't it? But like, no more than this weekend, I'll tell you, these games coming up, Sean. I was looking at the fixtures. Latin Scottstown played out an extra time penalty shootout game a couple of years ago in the exact same venue that you'll be there watching this Sunday. And Maracloon Carduff will have some recent history, intermediate finals, and big battles again in the league there recently. So really can't wait for these games this weekend, so I think that there's fireworks in the Super Bowl in America, but plenty of fireworks at the weekend around Monaghan as well.
I was just going to say that. I think on NFL and all World Athletics and all Ryder Cups will pale into insignificance when you say we look at what we have this weekend. Just before I go to that, a little topic of conversation. I'm sure maybe you've been out and about as well. It has been broached about this. The relatively long break there's been between the conclusion of the groups and now heading into these. There's two quarterfinals. Obviously, there's two teams in the semi-finals. I know we would have touched on this before. In between, we've had obviously the hurling county finals, which had their weekend, and the ladies then had their weekend last weekend as well. But it has been a long break, even to the point of where I was sort of going through in my own head, who's in the quarterfinals this weekend? You told us who they are, but the teams themselves wouldn't have forgotten. But it's been quite a break. It could have maybe lost the momentum of the championship ever so slightly.
It's the problem with it, Sean. Every year we're talking about this, and it's almost a punishment for the teams to make it straight into the semi-final, particularly Inniskeen, who had a bye in the last round of the groups and now has had this long layoff. Teams who are playing well, Clontibbert and Inniskeen, they've now had 4 and 5 week respective layoffs. So it's a problem with the championship. It's come up time and time again. The format, if you're keeping it, it's going to have to change. Championship's about every 2 weeks. Players, of course, we're thinking about the players and we're thinking about more games. The league has been narrowed down, that it's not. It used to be a double league. The own World Cup was 18 games in the league. Now it's down to whatever, 9. So definitely it loses interest, it loses momentum, people forget about it. You want to keep it going. Every 2 weeks games, they're going to have to sit down. They're going to maybe have a player forum, have a thinking group where you have stakeholders from everywhere, particularly players, clubs, county board, and just try and come up with something. It's not that the format is bad or whatever, but it's certainly, this is becoming a factor. And is it becoming a punishment to get to top your group? Because a quarterfinal game going into the semi-final will be better than any challenge. Like, challenge matches are difficult to get now. They're not going to be what you want. Training can be going well, but you don't really know where you are until you play a game. And that is a difficulty, particularly for the teams who did everything they needed to do in the group straight into a semi-final. They're going to be coming up against teams next weekend, the following weekend, on the 11th, on the 12th of October. Teams that have come through a quarter-final competitive match with wind in their sails, a victory, which is momentum. We keep talking about it, but momentum has stalled for the two teams that made it straight into the semi-final. I think something has to be done about it. It's come up time and time again. We could go back a year's time, Sean, and listen to what we spoke about in probably a review on the radio or whatever, and we'll be talking about this as well. So nothing it has to be changed. It has to be looked at. And when problems come up, nothing is ever perfect. And when things happen, you'll see what are the issues that are coming up. They'll have to be addressed, I think, next year, because it is a factor, you know.
It is. And in fairness, listen, when the CCC sit down to put the schedule in place, the fixtures in place, they have to be mindful, obviously, that there's a junior championship, there's an intermediate championship. The junior championship is all quarterfinals. Intermediate, similar to the senior, you have the top two going to semi-finals, and then you have quarterfinals. You've also got to factor in and credit the flip side of this. There was a weekend given to the hurling. So the hurling had their own standby weekend of their county finals, their junior and their senior. And sometimes that can be a cause of grief, particularly if there's dual players. And then last weekend, I know we had quarterfinals at intermediate and junior, but we also then had a full day dedicated to the ladies getting a triple header in St. Chearnock's Park. So there's a lot of moving parts, I suppose, in there, but still to come back, it's the momentum and losing that momentum for what is your key competition, your senior championship.
Well, there's only a certain amount of days, weeks, times. There's a lot of teams. Everyone wants their own, as you said, Sean, everyone has to get looked after. It's a thankless job. It's a tricky job. They're going to have to sit down, though, and talk about it, because that's just, you can't stand still and say, well, that's perfect. Nothing is perfect. So they're going to have to look and see, can it be improved, or what way can we do it? It's not going to be easy. No matter what's decided or what's agreed in whatever championship format, it won't be perfect. There'll always be issues, or I'd prefer the back door, or I'd prefer a longer league, or, no one's going to be somebody's going to have a problem, right? But I would say, though, probably a 4 or 5 week gap in the championship is too long, in a club championship.
Yeah, and as I said, it just has that feel about it. Even us just gathering our thoughts here again and looking forward to this. We had to go back, maybe go through the few notes on one thing and another, just to get back up to speed on it. Before we look forward, I'll briefly go back. The hurling finals, as I noted there, Clontibber playing host to a double header on a day of mixed weather, might I add, as well. Started off in beautiful sunshine, and I know yourself, you got a brave drowning like the rest of us as well. And
well, you took the seat in the van, Sean. I couldn't get into the van. Everybody jumped in. I had to stay outside. I don't think I talked to you for the rest of the game after that.
No, there's no picture, no sound, so it wasn't. It's not often my stature can take over something, but it does that occasion. But I tell you what, two entertaining games. They very much went to form. Monaghan Harps obviously winning out in the junior over Latin, who were making a first ever appearance, and then Castleblaney getting over True. And I would argue the scoreline in that senior game not reflective of the competitiveness of the game. True in it right up until the end.
Yeah, True worked hard. They had big men all around the pitch, and eventually, though, I suppose Castleblaney's quality, and in Monaghan Harps, in fairness, that just has that extra quality, that array of scorers. They just had more scoring threat, and they deservedly won, and they were happy with it. It was a tough look. True did not come to make up the numbers. They gave it a right good battle. Some big physical men there around Carvels and that round the middle, and Matthew Flood and these guys were brilliant. So, look, it was an entertaining game. I really enjoyed both finals. Latin, big year, big getting to the final, but Monaghan Harps just had that extra quality, that little bit of, the forwards up there were amazing, and then Blaney, we know what Blaney have, but I thought True were really, really good, and were no way overawed. Had their game plan, had their physicality, had their long distance points, but they just ran out of maybe steam in the end. And Blaney had just too many fires to put out around the field. Blaney with that wing forwards of Thomas Hughes and Niall Garland and Leo Maloney, and you just had too many fires to put out. But it was a great day. It was actually really enjoyable, bar the rain for about 5-10 minutes, and then it was lovely again. But it was a good occasion, and I have to say, you'll come to the ladies as well. Some great occasions, and that is the benefit, I suppose, of that 4 or 5 week break that we talked about. But we had some great occasions there the last couple of weekends.
We certainly did, yeah, and credit both. And what you see as the championship comes to the tail end of the season is the quality coming out in teams, the experience coming out in teams, and the cream rising to the top. And the ladies last weekend, triple header in St. Cheernocks Park. Full credit to all that were involved to pull that one up, because I know weather was going to be a big factor, and thankfully the weather played its part the whole week and right up even on the day itself as well. And we had a junior, intermediate, and senior final, and again, there was always going to be one surprise out of those three. Killeven back in another final, taking on Inniskeen, got over the line. Bridget O'Neill's back in another final, got over the line against True. And the big one, Dunamine against Emma Dogue. Dunamine making a return back after not being in the final last year. The 21 titles in a row. Didn't make last year's final, back this year. But Emma Dogue making history for themselves in what was a top quality game right up until the last kick.
Yeah, look, Killeven, well done. Lost last year's junior final against Anna Mullen after replay. Got themselves over the line convincingly against Inniskeen. Bridget O'Neill's and True was a brilliant game, really entertaining. But that inside full forward line, Jane Drury and Michaela McCabe, they just had that little bit extra. And then that the game, we talk about ladies football, men's football, junior, intermediate, senior. This game just transcended codes, and it was just a proper game of football. You were there as well, Sean. Every ball was a battle. Everything, they just put their bodies in the line. It was totally absorbing. It was actually low scoring at halftime, 1-3 to 1-2 to Emma Dogue. But the second half, 10-minute second half, Ellen McCarran comes in, and Ellen, she's a bit of an injury there. But when Emma Dogue put that ball high and accurately on top of her, she won her battle. She set up Aisling Tierney for the second goal, and then she scored the equalising goal, and then Lauren Brady with the winner. But then it was 9.5 minutes injury time. It was absolute Alamo stuff, sun in the eyes. Dunamine will be very, very disappointed. They scored 7 points in a row in that second half, went 6 up, and somehow didn't close the deal. So they were very disappointed. Emma Dogue, on the other hand, was just jubilation. And, it's lovely seeing teams possibly that, haven't done this before. Just the joy, and you could feel it there, the emotion and all the family. It was a real lovely affair. But it's hard losing them, particularly when you had possibly one hand on the cup as well. So commiserations done on mine as well. But it was a great weather compared to last year's county final. It was a washout. It was great weather, great occasion, great football. And when you say that, you're just saying, to try and dress. It was actually genuinely was a great day. Sometimes you're at 3 matches in a row, Sean. It's a long day. What didn't feel like that? I really enjoyed it. You were there as well, and you would have probably felt the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say that, like, the thought of the 3 games, your initial thought was you're in for a long day, and it just one flew into the other, and the quality, dare I say it, rose with every game. And the one thing you do note, and this is it, no matter where you would be playing football, men, women, juvenile or anything else, that from junior to senior, there's a massive jump just in the quality, and I would even argue the physicality of the game.
Yeah, which shows that the grades work. That you're
Yeah.
going up incrementally in quality and that, and the competitiveness. And that's what it's about, which, you'd often wonder, how come Intercounty don't have this at men's level? It works at every level of football around the country, and junior, intermediate, senior. So, yeah, 100% you could see that grade, that works. And as I said, up the steps. Brilliant day, brilliant game, and well done to all, particularly, and well done to all the people behind the scenes. The amount of work going on in Clonus by the volunteers, and we get to know them when we're there. They're unsung heroes, and they really are. Like, I know people say that, but genuinely great people putting in a whole day's work to make sure that it went on, and it was really well run, and the pitch was class. It was just a great occasion.
It certainly was. It certainly was. I suppose the one thing, Fergal, that I would take out from it, and having watched so much of the men's football and the new rules that were introduced this year, the one thing that I did note was the 15 back behind the ball. And there was a stage towards the end, and it was only but natural that the defending was Emma Dogue getting everybody back behind the ball. It left everybody in one half of the field. And when you see that, you suddenly realise the transformation that has been with the new rules in the men's game.
Yeah, 100%. And in the junior final, I felt Inniskeen had a couple of forwards up. Killeven had 7, 8, 9 defenders back. It just didn't work. The maths wasn't working out. And you can certainly see the difference when you're commentating on the new rules and the old rules. And I don't know how you felt, but I like the new rules better.
Well, yeah, it was the one just remark thing that I see. I say it's a long, long time, but obviously it's nearly a year from the rules were introduced that we've seen just this mass defense of everybody back, bodies back, and you could understand it. You couldn't be critical of it, but it shows the difference now between the two games. I know ladies football, obviously, there's the contact rule, there's the picking the ball up off the ground and that, and they've all adapted to that. But the one thing that I did note, I was at one stage in that game towards the end, every single player was in one half of the field, bar the goalkeeper, Linda Martin for Dunamine. But everybody else was in one half of the field.
Yeah.
It added to the excitement of it, obviously, because we knew time was rolling on. You were waiting on the final whistle. Was the score going to come? There was some excellent defending, not to be given away maybe scoreable free. There was the probing of the Dunamine forwards to try to get in. So it does have its place, but it just looks out of place now, dare I say, when we're so used to what we have now with having to keep the four back in the men's football. I don't know if it's something maybe that the ladies will be given consideration to, but well done to them, as you rightly said, on what was a festival of football. And speaking of festival of football, semi-finals this weekend, you're pumping to get into the middle of these. I know you're down to head to Inniskeen, Maracloon, Carduff, and two quarterfinals that are going to be hard called this weekend. So where do we start with this one in Inniskeen? A good southern battle, a derby up there.
Yeah, well, listen, this is going to be a battle. Carduff. I was looking at what the experts and what odds are being put on. Carduff hot favourites for this one. I don't think it's that straightforward, to be honest with you. I think the sides met in the league in a real battle. Carduff, as they have been doing in the last 3 or 4 years, winning games in the last 10 minutes. Maracloon were level, I think, going or maybe winning, and Carduff then eventually got the last 4 points of the match to win it in the league. They beat Maracloon and Inniskeen in the same venue in the Intermediate Championship final a couple of years ago with a smash and dash, a late Keith McEnany goal. They beat Scottstown. They scored 1-4 in the last 7 or 8 minutes of that match to beat Scottstown in the championship in Carduff. So there's a trend here with Carduff. It's not a fluke. I mean, they're clearly a team that have been tight, battle hardened. There's a belief there. They have a system. They trust each other. They've got 2 points. Fergal Monaghan has been exceptional, and against Scottstown in that game, we were going over and back that day, Sean. It was like that Super Sunday where we just decided you were in Latin and Ballabay. I was in with Carduff and Scottstown. Fergal Monaghan scored 6 2-pointers, which is big. Jason McGee, Jordan McGarrell, very strong around the middle of the field, and Pádraig Keenan, really good on the breaking ball, as are Michael Connolly, Dylan Finnegan, these guys. So, and have Keith McEnany, should I say? They might have said Keith Hannerty with the goal. Keith McEnany with the goal against Maracloon, that intermediate final. Keith McEnany is a serious goal threat. He's that bear on the square, full forward, gets that ball. He's hard to stop when he gets going. He can win along the end line. So that's Carduff. We know what they have there. They're formidable and they're very strong, and they have no fear of anybody. And they'll really fancy beating Maracloon. They'll actually relish playing Maracloon. I know Banty would love to beat Maracloon. Maracloon, on the other hand, have been a slow burner in the championship. Lost the first 2 games to Latin and Inniskeen. But they've been showing form now. They've started to get a couple of goals. Good full back line. They're a young team. Dylan Byrne, obviously, we know from the county. Pete Ward, a bit of experience there. Patrick Farley, a great young player. Really good. Old school, full cornerback. Has that dash. Really like him. Packy Dugan-Burke, great man to go forward, strong player. To have Jamie Kieran's back. Jamie and Jack Dugan in the midfield is going to be some battle with the 2 boys, Jordan McGarrell and Jason McGee. Maracloon have to break even around there. They need to win the breaking ball. It's going to be physical. They're going to have to match the physical stakes because they have seriously good footballers. Maracloon, are they as developed physically maybe as Carduff? I'm not sure. One footballer who I think is definitely going to play county football, Adam McKeown, really good footballer. Dylan Farley going well. Cian Duffy working tirelessly. Dan Mackay, a bit of physicality there as well. But Pádraig McMahon, he'll be a man who's going to run at Carduff. I just think Maracloon have to have to get inside that first tackle and get off the shoulder, create a couple of goal chances. And they're going to have to score a few more 2-pointers than they have been doing. Ryan Farley has been injured. He can hit a couple of 2-pointers. He may be back. He may not. I think he got some good news. It'll depend on that. But there's no doubt about Maracloon's talent. Have they enough to get over the line over 60 minutes? Can they match Carduff's physicality, Carduff's experience and belief? I think they're so well coached now, Maracloon. Damien Feeney, Eamon Hughes, they're doing fantastic work. There's no way it's the game that the odds are saying. I think this one's going to go into the melting pot. I really do. I think Maracloon really can win this one. The question is, will they win it? Because it's very difficult to beat this Carduff team as far as I can see. I've watched them a lot in the last couple of years, covering them with the radio, Sean. You've seen them as well. They're there or thereabouts. And when they're on the premises in the 50th minute, 55th minute, they're very hard to shake off and they're very hard to beat. They've just got this belief about them. But I can't actually wait for this game. I think it's a game. It's a watershed moment for Maracloon. I think it's a real test for them, where they're at. They're a good team. They're coming up against a Carduff team that are licking their lips saying, we can take this Maracloon team. They're not ready for us yet. That's the challenge for Maracloon. Can Carduff back it up? We'll see. I think this one's going to just be an absolute... Genuinely, I'm really looking forward to it. And obviously, I'm a Maracloon man. I know, and I have Carduff links as well, but I know that these two sides, no matter what, if they're playing... I remember being a kid watching them play a junior championship in Carrick Cross. It was a 7-7 draw, and how far both clubs have come. That was back in 1987 or something like that. So I can't wait for it. You'll probably want me to call it as well, but I just my heart says Maracloon, my head says maybe Carduff, but yeah, I think this one's going to go down to the absolute wire. I really do. But Maracloon need to match them and they need to get some 2-pointers as well. It's going to be, there's a lot of things Maracloon have to do because you don't want these boys. These Carduff boys have really grown in stature in the last couple of years. Their senior football, they've developed into a proper senior football team.
They have, and the thing is interesting you say there about Carduff being able to come late in games. The one thing I would have noted, and I think I discussed it with you before, is their fitness, and that has been very telling. I would argue they're maybe one of the fittest teams maybe in the championship that's left, and that's no slight in any of the other teams, but it's the one thing I've marked about them is just how fit they were. Their running game is as strong in the 60th plus minute as it is in the first minute, and that maybe is how they've been doing and getting about their business. They're wearing teams down. They stay in the game and they wear the team down.
Yeah, and they do, and they've in this new game, Sean, as you see there, the long kickouts of Jamie King in the goals, and he likes to come out and act and sit on that kind of number 10 channel, blocking off the long kick out. He did it brilliantly against Scottstown. He likes to get forward. They're developing the game. They've a good minor team. They're popping in minors as well there. They have young Cian Rafferty coming in. They have Sean Burns, who would have played a lot with the high school. He's a bit older than that, but look, they're a good team. They're a very good team, but I don't think Maracloon will fear them at all. I mean, it's not 2 or 3 years ago Maracloon were hot favourites playing them in that intermediate final. So for me, this is a 50-50 game. I think Maracloon have to up it a little bit than what we've seen. They're going to have to up the physical stakes if they're capable of that, and they're going to have to get a few 2-pointers and a goal. And if they do, there's no reason Maracloon can't win it. I know what Carduff are going to do. I expect what Carduff are going to be there. They'll just keep going. But they have peppered in now. Like I say, Paul Keenan will be massive on that breaking ball, and he wins a lot of frees in that half-forward line. And Fergal Monaghan's kicking, and Keith McInerney. So there's loads. Jamed Mahan can score as well. Peter Connolly. There's lots of quality there as well. The football there at club level, there's no... all lads who play club football now can play ball. They're all ball players. It's not like years ago where you might have a lad there to do a blocking job or whatever. They're all footballers. I think Fergal Monaghan will be man-marked. I think Paddy McMahon will be man-marked. So, I think Jack Dugan is playing the football of his life. I know he was on the county for a while last year. I'd like to see him back. I think Jordan McGarrell's putting his hand up to play county football. So, I look at it from that point of view as well, but it's going to just be this one. There's a sense this one, Sean, I'm in South Monaghan here. There's a real feel for this one. There's a real vibe about it. This will have a massive crowd Saturday at 4:30. Inniskeen, a great venue for it. This will be wedged, and I hope we have the weather we had at the weekend as well, because it'll just be a great game.
Well, you've certainly built it up now, so it'll be interesting if we're chatting this day next week in regards to how it fares out. I don't think you're even we're maybe looking past maybe extra time and penalties to decide that one. Looking then to Sunday, Clontibbert the setting for this one, and you noted at the start in our introduction here, Scotchtown Latin, that did go to penalties the last time these sides did meet in Championship in Clontibbert. We were both there on that occasion as well. And once more, one in Scotchtown, yeah, we'll be going in as favourites against Latin. But it's interesting, of the three teams, or three of the teams going in this weekend, Scotchtown's the only one that lost in the final group game. That served me right. Latin overcame Ballybay. There's obviously wins for Marrocloon and Carduff. So I'm not going to say momentum is key, but it's interesting that your county champions are the only ones of those four in these quarterfinals this weekend that are coming in probably with that feeling of wanting to right or wrong of a defeat the last day out.
Yeah, Scotstown's form hasn't been what you would have expected. They're still hot favourites to win this championship outright. But they're certainly not firing on all cylinders. And I go through the clientele, they're missing Ryan O'Toole and Conor McCarthy. So that's a starting point. If I was talking about a county, if I was talking about Monaghan playing a match at the weekend and I said those two are missing, that'll be a worry. So obviously club football, it's even exaggerated even more. One man who's playing the football of his life, he's just, I wonder when I think that he was back. You talked about American football at the beginning of the show, Sean. I think about Rory Beggan, that time he missed the league, good weight and kicking. The guy is just such an influence on football and on a game. He scored 10 points against Carduff in that defeat, the 118-17 point loss. 10 points, one from play, one free, and then 4 2-pointers. And he was up all the time, getting forward past that 50-metre line. He has been the driving force for Scottstown. And a player who's really playing well for Scottstown is Max Maguire. He was against Carduff as well. But Darren Hughes playing centre forward, won a good few frees, carried the ball. Probably from David McCaig's point of view, he'd be a bit disappointed. And, the form of some of the bigger players hasn't really developed yet. Now, we know Jack McCarron is a man for the big day. He hasn't really come to life yet in this championship. He was quiet against Carduff. Shane Carey, quiet. So I'll tell you who else was brilliant, scored 2 points against Carduff, Micheál McCarville. So there's signs they're coming. But they'll need a few more men to step up. And in Latin, on the other hand, Sean, it was going so well for them at the beginning. And I was talking to David Lennon actually at an under-16 match, and he listed out possible injuries. And James Slevin, I think Conor McCabe, Ryan Duffy's suspended, possible hamstring injury for Owen Mulligan. Now, he may have been telling me as a flyer out to come out and tell all these things, but there certainly was, and you were at the Latin Ballybay game, Sean. They have injury problems. There's no doubt about that. They picked up a lot of injuries against Inniskeen at home in the last game of the group, which was a brilliant game, by the way. But they were in a great place early on. They've kind of dipped a little bit, but certainly if Latin have Owen Mulligan and a few of our lads back fit, this one was going to be a really tight game as well, because Latin will believe they can beat Scottstown. That's the thing. Belief, they won't fear it. They won't have any problem with belief.
They will not, indeed. It's Aaron Mulligan. You're thinking you're back to Muggsy there, Owen Mulligan in Tyrone.
Oh, Aaron Mulligan, yeah. Right. I was looking at Owen. I was mixing up Owen Duffy and Aaron Mulligan, but Aaron, apologies, Aaron, if you do listen. You probably won't be listening, but Aaron Mulligan with a hamstring. Owen Mulligan pulled a hamstring years ago. I don't know if it ever recovered, but Aaron Mulligan. No, Aaron's been playing well. Look, I actually think the difference, I've been talking about Aaron all year. He's been one of the players of the championship. But, if he's on song, that'll be a big, big asset for Latin, and if he's injury-free.
It'll be one thing that I'm sure they'll look at, and it's interesting you noted it there. Rory Beggan with 10 points against Carduff. That's the goalkeeper. A lot of them, majority of them are place balls. So I suppose the first thing you're looking at is don't give a free. I was going to say you don't give a free inside the 45. You don't give a free inside your own half of the field, because he's going to come up and punish that. But is that the concern for Scottstown, that they are so dependent on place ball kicking from Rory, who will put them over, but they're not getting the same maybe return from the forwards.
There would be a concern about that. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you're relying on your goalkeeper to score 10 points, to over 50-60% of your scores. But I have no doubt, though, when you have quality and you get further on the championship, they're going to get scores from other places. That's what they'll do. You did, as I said, they just haven't been clicking to the level, but they're still there, and they're still favourites for this game. But it would be a concern that you're not getting scores from your traditional spots, like your full forward line isn't scoring as heavily as it should, and even from place balls, they weren't. Rory was great to place balls, but everyone else wasn't really on song against Cardiff. Now, you might say, look, there was no jeopardy, and both teams were qualified and all the rest. But I still don't think you want to miss your freeze if you've got the opportunity. But it is a concern for Scottstown. But there'll be a dangerous animal now at the weekend. They'll be written off a little bit, and it's dangerous. But there's no point pretending. Yes, it's Scottstown, but they're going to have to start performing. More players are going to have to start performing at a higher level to win this championship. And Latin will see that they have a real opportunity, because they will have looked at the way they played against Scottstown a couple of years ago, lost in that penalty shootout. Would they say our Scottstown is playing as well as they were that year? No, they wouldn't be. So Latin will say, we have an opportunity here to knock Scottstown out. And of course, it's in Clontibret, and Clontibret boys will be sitting on their home ground watching all unfold to see who they will be playing the following weekend in Clones in a doubleheader. So, another man I actually mentioned, Kieran Duffy and Thomas McPhillips, absolutely flying for Latin as well. Really strong defensively. So, yeah, this isn't a gimme. This is not. If Latin have their men back, it's going to be a tight struggle with injuries. But Scottstown don't have a full bill of health either. So, and their form's been dipped. So, this is just as tricky as the other one. But Scottstown are favourites because they're the county champions and they are a brilliant team. But their form has not been good. Latin, a lot of injuries, 4 or 5 possible injuries. How much of those injuries going to clean up? Now, they're definitely without Ryan Duffy, and they need Dara Dempsey back as well. So Dara Dempsey may be back. If he's back, that's another forward threat. Latin need as many forward threats as they can, because they're very strong defensively. So, yeah, that one, Sean, you'll be at that one. What's your thoughts on it? I'll turn the table on you a little bit there and get you to give your ideas.
Well, I suppose I noted it earlier. When you get to this time of the year, this is when the quality begins to show in teams, the experience shows in teams, and obviously Scottstown have that in abundance. But it's interesting. Latin would have looked before and thought that they had Scottstown beaten in championship games. As I said, I reflect back on that game that went the whole way to penalties back a number of years ago in Clontibret as well. So listen, I think they can go in with it, certainly with that degree of hope, dare I say, or positivity. But it's still hard to look past Scottstown, even as I said, Scottstown team that is very heavily dependent on Rory for their score, and on the day others can step up. And it'll be interesting to see the layoff, and we talked about the layoff, just how much recovery time, and it has given recovery time to the likes of Conor McCarthy and Ryan O'Toole. It'll be interesting watching to see the panels that will be named even ahead of this weekend, to see if those guys have become available for them as well, because you're into the knockout football now. In the group, you could maybe hold back and say, well, we'll keep going as we see. Now you need everybody on board. You need your fittest 15 and plus your 5 or 6 that's on the bench then as well. So it'll be interesting to just see what comes up that one. We will have live coverage, you've touched on it there, of both those quarterfinals here on Saturday on Sunday Sport. Just briefly, Fergal, as well, and just throwing at you, Junior Championship throwing up big surprises last weekend. We're looking at Emmyvale, Curran, Sean's and Scottstown into the semi-finals. Now, listen, we're all talking Emmyvale are massive favourites to be going and winning a junior championship. But a couple of other teams falling by the wayside there. Black Hill falling to Sean McDermott. Zahabog falling, I think it was to Curran that they went down. And Scottstown were getting the better of Air Oak.
Yeah, the Scottstown win was big. Air Oak will be disappointed during the final last year. Talking to Kieran's, he would have just about fancied Air Oak. But Scottstown, players available. They've been knocking on the door and have been quarterfinal finalists really every year since they went into this grade. So I'm actually not that surprised about that. I think they're a team that could be very, very dangerous. Curran, great to see Kieran's own team, a tough outfit, going well this year. And you're right, Emmy Vale are the standout team, and they beat your team, Rockory, there at the weekend, beat them well, and they're expected to do that. But yeah, great to see some big results thrown up. But I'm not that surprised with Scottstown. They've been hanging around there, and it's only a matter of time. And I think it's only a matter of time before they make a junior final as well. Will it be this year? I'm not too sure. But Sean's as well, a bit of quality there, with Adam O'Driscoll and he could. Quality in the forwards is hard to beat at any level, and particularly at junior. But Emmy Vale, we've said it all year, they're the front runners, and then there's a team Curran there who have been going. There's a nice togetherness about them. So it's an enjoyable. It's intriguing enough, the junior one. It throws up some big results. So as I say, it's Emmy Vale's to lose, but that's a dangerous position. You have to go and win it there. But they are in good shape, in fairness.
They are, and I know it's Scottstown they take on the semi-final this weekend, and the other side of the draw, I was just checking, Curran taking on Sean, so sort of a feel of a local derby to both those games then as well, so it'll be interesting just to see what comes of those. Well, listen, Fergal, I know you're looking forward to what will be a busy weekend, and now after that break, and I know we covered the hurling and the ladies' football, it's full steam ahead now to the end of the month, and who knows who'll be lifting these cups. I suppose we can have all our thoughts and all our inklings as to who it might be, but a lot of football to be played between now and, I say, that the winner's been decided.
Well, one thing I will say, and what I love about this year's championship now, it's that it's wide open. Literally anyone can win it, and we haven't said that in quite a while. And maybe if we think back to what we said at the beginning of the championship before it started, bit like Emmy Vale in junior, we talked about, Carrick in intermediate, Scottstown will win the senior. It's just not that straightforward. The story has changed. It's gone down different avenues. Any team, there's definitely four teams definitely who say we can win this championship. And that's what makes it an intriguing and very, very intriguing for me. Like, genuinely, you can say like any of them could win it.
You could indeed. Well, listen, thanks as always, Fergal. And just a reminder to you again, this is the 21st episode of the Monaghan Way. There's 20 previous episodes if you wish to check them out. And they don't always be, I suppose, GAA centred. I'm thinking Scarlett Heron. We had a lovely conversation with her, a lady now that has moved across to the Scottish League on a professional contract over there. We talked to Conor Monaghan on his World Rally Championship experience that he had. I did say it. We had an NFL kicker on, Pat Murray from Clonus. Well, he's originally American, but he always talks about Clonus being his home, obviously, with the very strong family connections that he's had there. Darren Hughes, of course, did call time on his inter-county career. He'll be out this weekend. We had a lovely piece with him. And I can promise you, we have one coming up with another inter-county player that is also called today, Carl O'Connell. Keep an eye out for that episode, which will be coming your way. You can check out all these episodes on YouTube streaming or anywhere else that you get your podcasts.